Let's take a few minutes to talk about the return on investment of implementing knowledge management. One very common question organizations have regarding any implementation is, if we're going to make an investment, how do we realize a return on that investment? And knowledge management is no exception. Well, we could talk about how billion-dollar corporations like Xerox, IBM, and GE have leveraged KM to monetize their employees' collective knowledge, convert the knowledge to technology, and apply that technology for product innovation. In reality, directly measuring ROI for knowledge management is not so straightforward. There are many other factors within each organization that contribute to these results. Instead, let's examine what not implementing KM could cost you. By now, you are probably aware of the altered performance of Volkswagen diesel engines under test conditions versus on the road, resulting in the cars passing U.S. emissions tests but actually emitting up to 40 times the allowable pollutants when driven. How could this happen? While VW has launched an internal inquiry to answer this very question, we know that car manufacturers run on very tight deadlines to get out each year's models, and suppose that the low-emission diesel engine was not finished in time. In the scramble to get the models to market, the decision was made to trick the emissions test rather than fix the cars. Now obviously, we are not privy to the internal discussions of VW, but this decision speaks loudly to the influence of the 4 barriers to effective knowledge sharing. To start, who's to say that one of VW's engineers didn't have the solution for the low-emission engine, but those collaborating on the course of action were unaware of that worker's knowledge? That's the first barrier, ignorance. People don't know who has the knowledge they need, and also don't know that they have knowledge that others are interested in. The way companies are siloed today leads us to the second barrier. Chances are, this decision-making group had little direct relationship to the engineering department, or anyone else that could have lent a different perspective to the decision-making process, so their input was neither sought nor offered. Even if we assume that the knowledge was already available, studies have shown that it takes an average of 27 months for new knowledge and practices to reach and benefit others. So even if VW's dissemination rate was twice as fast as the average, it still would have taken until after the next model year for that knowledge to make its way to those that could have used it. And lastly, however they collaborated, they clearly had not absorbed and adopted an effective collaboration practice which would lead to a vetted, ratified decision. Do you really suppose that most of VW's employees would have ratified a decision to cheat the emissions test? The financial impact on VW is staggering. In addition to the loss of trust in the brand from both consumers and dealerships, are the hard costs. Billions of dollars already set aside to cover the cost of recalling 11 million cars. Potential EPA fines of $18 billion. The cost of guarantees to dealers that cannot sell their diesel stock as a result of the scandal, and the cost of actually fixing the cars they recall. All of these barriers could have been overcome through the implementation of knowledge management tools and adherence to a sound knowledge management practice, which very well may have resulted in a less financially disastrous result. So it's not a question of whether you can afford to implement knowledge management. Can you afford the cost of not implementing KM? To see how WSN Insight can help you overcome the barriers to effective knowledge sharing, contact us to schedule a demonstration, sign up for our monthly webinar, or continue exploring our website. And remember, don't just talk about having a knowledge management practice. Practice knowledge management.